Lisbon. Beaches, sunshine, safety, good quality of life. For many, Portugal's Atlantic capital is a dream city. But for the people who live and work here, it's exactly that which has become the problem. Many can no longer find a place to live.
I was pushed out of the neighborhood I lived in, and now I feel pushed out of Lisbon itself.
Some can no longer afford even a single room and end up here, in this illegal settlement, despite having a job.
I want a home that I can pay for with my salary. That's all. The rest I can take care of myself.
At the same time, the luxury end of the property market is booming. Lisbon is not alone. Many major cities around the world are facing the same crisis. Experts say this is more than just a housing issue.
The lack of a political response to the housing crisis is undermining trust. When that system fails to respond, democracy itself begins to erode.
But there is resistance. We want to know just how serious is the situation, and who does this city still belong to? George is looking for an apartment. After his rent went up by almost 20%, he had to leave his previous home. For the last 6 months, he's been searching listings every day, but finding anything affordable is difficult.
I was practically pushed out of the neighborhood where I used to live, and now I feel pushed out of Lisbon itself. As if the city were rejecting me, telling me to go away. And I only ended up in this house by chance, because the friends living here happened to have a spare room.
It is only a temporary solution. What the 43-year-old really wants is a place of his own. George came to Portugal from Brazil in 2017. He works full-time in marketing and earns €2,000 net a month, about a third more than the average worker in Portugal.
Here, a single room costs between 700 and 800 euros. When I arrived in Portugal, that was the price of an entire apartment. Now it's the price of just one room.
Right now, many people in Lisbon are in the same situation as George. Since 2020, rents have risen by 42%. One reason, this picturesque city has become a tourist hotspot. In 2025 alone, around 7 million people visited. In neighborhoods like Alfama, once home to working-class families, many apartments are now being offered as short-term holiday rentals, forcing residents out. The influx of digital nomads has made the situation even worse. Experts recommend spending no more than 30% of your income on rent. In reality, the average figure is now around 40% in Berlin, 75% in London, and in Lisbon, 116%. But there's growing resistance. Today, one of the biggest demonstrations in years is planned in central Lisbon. Thousands are expected to attend.
Housing prices are very high. We cannot afford to buy or rent an apartment at the moment.
I receive a pension that, by Portuguese standards, is not very much, around 1,000 euros, but I have to pay 550 euros in rent.
It's complicated, for sure. I don't want to live in my parents' house until I'm 50.
George is here too. For some time now, he has been active with Porta a Porta, an organization founded in 2023 to fight for the right to housing.
That is our goal, to pressure the government, to make them act, and to make them see housing for what it is, a national emergency. We believe that together we can bring about change. We can turn what is treated today as a market back into what it should be, a right. The right to have a place to live.
So welcome to this exquisite loft in the neighborhood of Alcântara in Lisbon. This is one of my favorite properties because it's incredibly unique. There isn't really anything like it on the market right now.
This luxury apartment on sale for €1.4 million is one of the listings of the Anne Brightman Group. The American entrepreneur has built up a successful real estate company in recent years, now employing more than 24 people. Her specialty, the very top end of the market.
I would move in here in a second, and I would live here for 3 or 4 years and make a nice profit if I wanted to sell it. So I think this is really an exceptional buy.
Anne Brightman's luxury properties are sold to buyers from all over the world, including Northern Europe, the United States and Brazil. She knows international demand has transformed the market, but in her view, the reasons for the housing crisis lie elsewhere.
This really isn't a problem of expats coming into the country. This is really an issue of the government working on affordable housing, making the process much easier and much shorter and cutting some of the bureaucracy and red tape that the developers run into.
In fact, Portugal is amongst the lowest in Europe when it comes to social housing provision, with it making up just around 2% of the housing stock. Countries like the Netherlands, Austria and France have significantly more. That also has to do with the country's history. After World War II, rents in Lisbon were frozen for decades. That meant there was little incentive and little money to maintain buildings properly. Then in 2012, the government liberalized the housing market. Permanent rental contracts were largely abolished, and Portugal actively attracted foreign investors who bought property in the country. For Lisbon City Councillor Vasco Moreira Rato, the housing crisis is real. And there are no easy solutions, but he says foreign investment also brought benefits.
Not so many years ago, downtown Lisbon was full of buildings in very poor condition, often empty or occupied by people who had no means to renovate them. Today, downtown Lisbon is a vibrant part of the city, completely transformed and rehabilitated. So at that time, Lisbon needed that investment.
Most people here are not convinced that the government is doing enough to tackle the housing crisis. Today, thousands have gathered for the demonstration. Jorge is among them.
Fight, fight!
So many empty houses.
Fight, fight!
So many empty houses.
This huge turnout shows we're on the right track, and that we're not alone. It gives me hope to see that this fight is growing, that more and more people are coming together and taking to the streets to demand a basic right: housing.
In the crowd, we meet Maria. She will later show us herself why she is here today.
It is so important to fight for the right to housing. We are here so that the whole world knows we exist, so people can see us.
She invites us into her home so we can see what housing in Lisbon now looks like for some people here. Maria lives in Talude, a tin shack settlement just outside Lisbon. A few hundred people live here, some without running water, without sewage, without electricity.
Everybody who lives here is working. I work, I have children, they are students, but my salary does not even come close to covering a home for me and my daughters, even just a 2-bedroom apartment. On the minimum wage, it's impossible.
Maria came from Sao Tome 5 years ago to give her daughters a better future. She found work as a cleaner and has earned Portugal's minimum wage ever since, around €800 net a month. But with that, she could not find an apartment.
I don't want favors. I want to work for what I have. What I want is simple: a home I can afford with my salary. That is all. In Portugal, unfortunately, that is something I cannot have. Once I have a home, everything else I can achieve through my own hard work.
Instead of ending up on the street, she built herself an illegal shack out of metal. But like all the residents, she's in constant conflict with the city. Her home was recently demolished. She built it again, because she cannot afford any alternative.
When they destroy our homes, they destroy our lives. Then we have to start all over again.
But how could politics make housing affordable again? We meet Helena Rosetta, one of the core authors of Portugal's constitution from 1976. She helped build in a key principle the right to housing.
The housing toolbox has only 4 real instruments. You build public housing, which takes time. You use taxes and fiscal incentives. You subsidize rents or land, or you regulate an unbalanced market through law.
The former MP has spent years studying Portugal's housing market. She knows what is at stake if things continue like this.
The lack of a political response to the housing crisis is undermining trust. When that system fails to respond to one of the most basic problems people face, democracy itself begins to erode.
We meet George again. Today is moving day for him, but not into a place of his own. He's just bringing the rest of his belongings to his friend's apartment. For now, that is where he will stay until he finds something affordable.
I hope the future brings real change. Change that helps not just me, but everyone living through this, not only in Lisbon, but around the world. Because, as we see here, people are being denied something fundamental: the right to a home, the right to a roof over their heads, the right to live with dignity.
In Lisbon, this is no longer just about how expensive housing has become. It is about whether this city can still be a home for the people who live and work here.